Hey guys, it's Heather the Crochet Witch. How are you guys doing? So, finally, the newest hashtag movie and stitch. That's what we're on. This is for the letter Q, which is, my movie is The Quiet Place, which I did. I saw this in theaters, and then I haven't seen it since because David hated it. I liked it. Let me say, and I liked it again. You already know you're getting spoilers, so I'm just going to say, the ending was, like, if you're a person who the ending is going to ruin it for you, well, which I normally am, that's usually me. I don't know why the ending didn't ruin this for me, but the ending made me cringe really bad. I guess we'll get to that in a second. But basically, if you are unfamiliar with this, you probably already at least know it's a horror movie. If nothing else, because that's what I've been doing with my hashtag movie and stitch. If you're unfamiliar with what the hashtag movie and stitch even is, let me explain, since I seem to just jump right into it today for some reason. But it is, originally, it was created by Terry from the Yarn Joy podcast. And the idea was to go through the alphabet, watching a movie that started with each letter of the alphabet, and do a project. It doesn't have to be like I am doing just a project. A lot of people were doing colors from the movie, inspirational colors from either the movie poster, the DVD cover, something from the movie that inspired them color-wise, and adding it into like rows of, like, say, a blanket or whatever. Some people were doing an amigurumi from each of the movies. I, like a few other people, were doing just a project, not necessarily color inspired, but like I'm doing horror movies, so I am doing a Halloween inspired blanket, which I had been wanting to do anyway, so kind of two birds with one stone. Most people that did this and followed it through completed it at the end of last year, but I kind of like let it fall to the back burner and then fall too far to the back burner. But I am determined to finish up a lot of things, a lot of blankets. So I definitely wanted to finish this also, this series, since I started it. So yeah, I'm bringing you guys along for the ride and maybe giving you some new movies to watch, or giving you a review, since I tend to talk a little too much about them to begin with, so that you don't have to watch some if you don't like. There was a couple people, especially with Ma, that were like, okay, so I got the review and I don't need to watch this movie now because it was just too like cringy to them, or that kind of thing. So like maybe I'll save you from having to watch it, or a few of you who don't like horror movies at all, just because of like you don't like being scared, which is the opposite of me, by the way. It's not that I'm brave or that I don't find them scary. I love being scared. Like when I'm watching a movie, I love it. I love the thrill of it, and it doesn't really carry with me too long after the movie by any means. Like I always like poke fun at Damon, because if we watch him, he has to like unwind and watch something like not scary afterwards to like unwind and kind of forget about it. The scare from the movie doesn't really stick with me long enough to be scared later on. But I do like the scare during the movie. Like, it's one of the reasons why I like horror so much. But yeah, some of you guys that just cannot do horror for one reason or another, like kind of, I think, live vicariously through just my rendition of the horror movie. And then that's enough for you. Don't need to actually watch it then. But yeah, so A Quiet Place was my Q movie, which there was not a lot of Q movies, as you may have imagined. I think there was a movie actually called Q, I think. I can't remember. Not the Star Trek character either, which would have been cool, but no. Well, anyway, so this movie, it stars Emily Blunt and John Krasinski. John Krasinski, you may know from, I'm going to hold it up here so you can see him. He is actually from The Office, for those of you who are familiar with The Office. David and his friend watched that show. I was not an Office fan. As you can imagine, I'm not as into like comedy and stuff as I am horror. So it's not something that I picked up on when it was on. I don't think it's still on. Is it? I don't think so. But, and I guess he also directed it, produced it, directed it. He did one of the two. He directed it. And when they approached him about it, he actually had said, well, I don't do horror. And then he like read through it and he decided to do it anyway because he really liked the script, I guess, or the idea of it. But basically, A Quiet Place takes place. Then it took place in the future, but it basically takes place in 2021. I think this movie was made in, when were you made? 2018. So the idea was to be close enough, I'm sure, into the future to like have it be nearby and kind of scare you about it, about the upcoming future. But now that it's past. But in this world, the Earth was, they were hinting that it was invaded by aliens because like in the background they're of different things, like in the guy's basement, this is the Abbott family that the movie is about. In the Abbott's family basement where they took shelter a lot, there were a bunch of newspaper clippings and headlines and stuff like that, and one of them, or several of them, had said things like several landing places. They had said, I can't remember like word for word, but it basically alluded to different alien crash sites, like a meteor striking the Earth was one, of giant magnitude or something like that was one of them. But they were alluding to an alien invasion. It gave me kind of the feel of Cloverfield, if you've ever seen Cloverfield, because there was like the hint of in the sky of some of the videos, the home videos of the thing like shooting through the air and into like, I think it was the New York, one of the little channels of the New York, of New York State, somewhere in there. And then suddenly the monsters were there. So like the assumption was it was an alien. So it was that kind of along those lines. And most of the movie, like the very beginning, even from the very beginning, absolute silence. There'd be like you might hear rustling of leaves if they were blowing. I remember very distinctly hearing when the wind was picking up, there was a newspaper outside that was like flapping in the wind, and you could hear it so well because the inside, like the mom and dad would be in there with the kids, and the dad would just be like, there's no, a quiet place means they were not talking. And you got that right from the beginning, and they were like doing sign language with each other. And it was subtitled. The sign language was subtitled so you could read it, but they were going on a mission into this deserted town because there was hardly any people, as you could imagine. It was basically an alien apocalypse that had happened. And as with most alien apocalypse movies, before people figure out that it is aliens or how to hide from them or beat them, most people were gone. So these were the survivors. The Abbott family was one of the surviving families. And so they were using sign language. And the youngest, this little boy, he was only, I think, 4. He really wanted this spaceship, and he had drawn on the floor and everything and was signing to his sister, who actually was deaf. She had not a hearing aid, but it was like a cochlear implant. I know there's a difference because a cochlear implant has something to do with transmitting sound wave vibrations or something like that. I'm not sure about the science behind it, but I know it's different from a hearing aid. But he was signing to her and saying like his big idea to get away and save them was to get them out with a rocket ship. And he really wanted this toy rocket ship. And the dad saw it and was like, like telling him no. And he went and took the batteries out and he set it aside and was telling him like, no, you can't have it. And as they were leaving, the sister turned around and she didn't give him the batteries, I don't think. But she gave him the toy anyway. Maybe she did give him the batteries, and I'll tell you why in a minute. But I hadn't thought she did, I guess. And they're walking along. They have no shoes on either. Like they're basically just doing everything they can to make themselves silent. And they're walking along and they get to this bridge. And the little boy is like kind of carrying back at the end. He's the trailing back. And suddenly in this dead silence, you hear the sound of his little rocket ship turn on. And just the family turns. The mom was so good. Like all through this movie, she is so good at all the different things she does. Like at one point she had like stepped on a nail and she was still just like, and stopped herself from screaming. And like, I can't even imagine going through some of the things. Like, of course, your first reaction if your child is in imminent danger is probably to scream out and stop them. But like just silently, like the dad was like, and like the mom was like, instead of screaming. And the dad took off running, and before he even got like the length of his other two children to scoop up this third kid, this creature just like had charged out of nowhere and grabbed him up. Like just like that, this kid was gone. Like the toy was dropped on the ground. They got the toy shut off, and of course they were all like silently crying and mourning and in shock. They all knew the creature was there because of course they had already lived through this and been surviving through this, but like it was that fast. It was like that fast. As soon as they heard a noise, like the creatures just come from nowhere and are just, it was insane. Just to put it mildly, it was insane. So their youngest was now just gone. The older sister like was blaming herself, and she thought the dad was blaming her through most of the movie. So like whenever he would take the other son on like survival trips, he was trying to teach him how to like survive. And I think really I don't think it was ever said, but what he was trying to do, the order of the children in age, the girl was the oldest. So yeah, she maybe should have been the one to go on the survivalist trips. And then the boy, and then the one that got taken was the youngest boy. And then the mom was home pregnant again. And yes, maybe he should have taken the older girl, but I think he didn't for a couple reasons. One, I think he wanted her to be able to help the mom more than the younger boy, because the mom at this point was fairly pregnant around the house, doing the housework and stuff like that. Like she was in the basement, like doing laundry and carrying up these giant bags of laundry. And, I don't know, just things like she was quite pregnant. She wasn't like hugely pregnant, but I mean, she needed some help, I think. And, two, I don't think the dad wanted to say such things, but like the boy, after the youngest had gotten taken like that, he was very afraid, like all the time. Like, I mean, yeah, it's normal to sit there and go, well, of course he was afraid. But like, even compared to the other ones, compared to his sister and everything, he was super afraid. So I think the dad was trying to break him out of being that afraid. Like he was trying to teach him like, it's okay to make sounds if there's a bigger sound to cover it up. Like he took him specifically to like a waterfall, so that all this natural sound is constantly occurring, like, the water falling and everything, water falling. And the boy was just like terrified when his dad went to yell, but he just like let out this yell and he told him like, you're fine, you're fine, because all of this noise is surrounding us. And this is when it's okay to talk, make noise, do whatever you're going to do, not when it's quiet out there. So that's when they had a chance to sit and talk. And like the little boy was telling him like, my sister thinks you blame her and maybe you should have a talk with her and all this stuff. And so they had like a little heart to heart, and like I suppose that was probably like a little growing moment for the son and a little moment for the dad. And at some point they're getting back, and there was a monster had gotten into the farmhouse, and so they took that was where the film took the time to like show how they I don't want to say hunted the monster, but how they took precautions, because like they would send all the family members to different areas of their farm. Say you had like a cornfields all around and everything. And they would like basically take turns kind of distracting it away until they could all get to safety and hide, or until the monster was distracted somewhere else, or like whatever the case may be. So it just showed like their defensive And then there came another point where the dad and the son were away, and the daughter had left to go put like a memorial on the youngest. They had put like a grave thing on the road. She went to go put a toy or something on her little brother's memorial thing. And of course, great timing in every movie, that is when the mom started having her baby. And I could not even imagine having to have a child in absolute silence. Could you even imagine? A natural birth in silence with these things, like they're going to come attack you and your child at any moment as it is. But then if you made a noise, let alone a scream, or if the baby cries after the fact. And really, they needed all the family members to be home because they had all of these tactics like worked out. And eventually the family members made it home. So you did get to see, like, one of the tactics was the son, since he was like the fastest runner and could hear, because obviously the daughter being deaf was at a disadvantage to hear if some of the creatures had followed her and found her. But so he took off running across the cornfield, and they had like rows of fireworks lined up. So the kids set those off. So like while the mom was giving birth, if she's going to have to scream at some point, the fireworks are going off and drawing all of their attention like basically away from her so that she can give birth and then get the baby into this like padded room. It was crazy how they made this padded room for them and everything. But at some point, the kids got separated from the parents and the baby, and they get the baby downstairs and to safety with the mom. And like, she's telling the dad, like, you have to save the kids, you have to protect them. And she's thinking she's going to die, and making him promise to protect them and all that. So he goes out, and obviously he's their dad, he's going to protect them, but he goes and finds them, and they're trying to take care of each other already. And they were like trapped in this like grain silo or corn silo with all this corn, and like they were like almost drowning underneath the corn and all that. It was crazy. Like the daughter like disappeared under the corn for a minute, and I could only imagine having to be like fishing somebody out of that. That's crazy. Anyway, so the dad gets them out of there, and they're all together, and the two kids are like in this truck, and they see the dad, and they're happy because he's coming towards them. Sorry if you just heard that. I thought I had my phone on silent, but I didn't. And suddenly they're all like in terror because one of the creatures finds them, and it's approaching them. And the dad signs to the daughter. He signs to her like, I love you. I've always loved you. And she immediately knows what's about to happen. And she's like trying to tell him like, no. And because he needed to get to the truck. Their truck was built as an escape. Like if they had thrown it into gear, the truck was on a hill or something. So it would be propelled back to the house and they could get into safety. And the dad just, after he told her that and he knew she knew it, he opened up his mouth and he just screamed. And so the creature was drawn to him and attacked him so that the kids could get away. I have like goosebumps, like even talking. That's just like so sad and brave and scary and selfless. And I'm just like, I hate that. I hate that. Like there had to have been another way. There had to have been. It made me really sad. And like, that's why I can't believe that ending for that part didn't like just ruin it for me, like right then and there. But there is a little bit more. The kids did make it back, and they thought like, oh, like, I mean, obviously we're sad and everything, but they didn't have time to mourn him because a creature was in the house then. And the daughter saw all of the work because she'd never been like allowed in the basement. And the dad kept her out and she didn't know why. Well, she was down in the basement now because that's where the mom was. Well, she saw all of his work that he had been doing, like writing out all these things about her ear implants that he had kept working on, and none of them had been working and all this. So she gets this idea to switch it on and do something. She fiddled with it. And the noise that it emitted made the creature freak out and it killed it. Or at least it threw it out of its senses enough so the mom could kill it with a shotgun, because otherwise the shotgun wasn't working, I guess. But that's how they killed it, was with her implant. And so then they just decided to go monster hunting at the end because they were going to use their loudspeaker and blare the sound out to all the other ones. But that's terrifying. The thought of that is terrifying. And I don't know, it made me so sad about the dad at the end. There is A Quiet Place 2 that I haven't seen. I want to see it. And I think the dad is in it. So I don't know if it's like the prequel. I can't imagine it's a scenario where he survived. I can't imagine he survived that. But anyway, as far as trivia that I found, because you guys know I love my trivia, I found the director. Oh, another cool thing, because you know I have to talk about my Stranger Things, which, by the way, cool update. I'm sorry to bust into the middle of this, but I had to say Stranger Things. Today, it was announced, and some of you guys on my group, on my Facebook group, already know this, because thank you so much for linking it today. We found out that they have put the dates out for season 4. Yay! The dates, plural. They're going to put it in 2 sections because it's such a big season. They're going to have the release dates on May 27th and July 1st. And I'm trying to ignore the fact that the same article said that the two parts will be leading up to season 5, meaning season 5 is going to be the last season. But we're just going to ignore that part for now and be happy that this one is going to be a super long action-packed season. Excitement. But the reason why I said Stranger Things, the creature, like, his mouth was his mouth, so it didn't like open up like it fully like a petal, but the whole top part of his head was like a bunch of little open petals, kind of. So like it sort of reminded me of like the Demogorgon's like weird cousin. If I don't know, I'm just saying, it kind of did. Just wanted to mention that. The Demogorgon was cooler though. I'm just way cooler. Anyway, so director and lead actor John Krasinski also played the creature in a motion capture suit for a few scenes. So yeah, he put on the suit, and I guess the other actors and actresses were like laughing about it because it was kind of like absurd looking the way he had to move in it and stuff. Yeah. And then initially they actually did not intend to subtitle any of the sign language scenes, which would have been crazy to me because apparently there was only like 25 lines of dialogue that it said somewhere. And the rest was all non-spoken, like sign language dialogue, which is also mind-blowing to me. But they just assumed that the audience would get the drift, basically. And when there was a scene where the daughter was arguing with the father about, like, he had given her a new implant to try on, and she was saying, like, no, it's not going to work. It's never worked. And it's never going to work. Or just give up. And he was telling her, like, just try it. And she was like, no, just leave me alone. That's when they were like, we kind of probably should subtitle this because people probably aren't going to get all of it. And then they were like, well, let's just subtitle all of it. But I'm glad because I don't think I would have gotten, like, I mean, maybe I would have gotten the gist of it, but I think I got a lot more out of it having all of the subtitles. And then, you know how I said they had a cornfield and the kids had gotten buried in the corn silo. So there was a ton of already like processed corn or dried corn or whatever. Apparently the filmmakers had purchased 20 tons of corn and hired local farmers to grow the corn for them, so that they actually like made jobs or whatever out of the movie. I thought that was pretty cool and worth mentioning. So that's the trivia that I found that I thought was the most interesting for the movie. And then let us talk really quickly about the project. So I did 3 more squares last week. Here's what's left of the Red Heart with Love that I'm joining everything with, because that's what I did this week. Was I did the join and the full row back to set up for the next time I join, because I think I want to do 1 more row of this. The squares are pretty big. Let's see if I can get this thing unfolded. But I have 4 rows across, and 4 rows across like completely already covers me quite well, but I have it 6 long, so I feel like it'd be kind of thin and awkward if I don't make it a 5th row. So I'm going to make it a 5th row across and then start working on like the border and stuff. So I have basically 6 more squares to make of this, and it'll be done. So you already know because, well, if you've been following along or if you saw my happy mail from Amy yesterday, I am using the Caron Jumbo for these squares in the color Plum Copper, which if they ever re-release this color, I will be buying in multitudes, but this is a discontinued color of Caron Jumbo, and it is apparently like the rarest thing ever to find. I would not be finishing this blanket right now if it wasn't for Amy. Thank you again, girl. Thank goodness she had that in reserve and was willing to share it with me. But that's the solid part of the granny squares, and see, they're all coming up this weird pull. They all pull basically the same way, like so odd. And then this green is also discontinued. It is a Joann's Rainbow in the color Lime. And this is like, if you can see it from there, the border of this being a purple. The purple is a Joann's Big Twist. Joann's Big Twist. It's basically what took place of the rainbow. Big Twist Classic in the color Violet. And then the orange is another Big Twist Classic. So the green is discontinued. The other 2 are not. The other 2 are still out and about. And that is in the color orange, I believe. It's either orange or pumpkin. But those are the colors I'm bordering it with. And this is, the black is just a Red Heart with Love in the color black. And yeah, that is how my blanket is looking right now. I have to figure out soon what kind of spiffy border I want to do for it. I do have, if I can get this folded up, I will show you real quick. I'll just lay it across my lap. How about that? I do have these little cute ghosties that I have yet to put the eyes on, a couple of them on. But I made some little ghosty appliques out of some Red Heart with Love metallic. And I have a couple different sizes of them. These are the ones that need the eyes. These are the bigger guys. And then those were with the pattern. I may have it linked below. I will try to find it if it's not. But I had just Googled a simple like ghost applique pattern for those. And they're the same pattern for all this. I just used a different hook size basically to see, and doubled up the yarn for the big ones. And then I made my own pattern for Tombstone, and I want to put, in black, I want to put RIP on that. And I might make like a second one. I don't think I'm going to make 3 of them. And I got to sew in the ends and all that. But I'm going to have that on the blanket also, I think. And that'll be that as far as appliques go, because I'm not trying to like go crazy applique crazy or anything on the blanket. And those were just done with like the scraps left over from the Caron 1-pounders. And that is it as far as the blanket project goes. My R movie that I'll be doing next week is Rose Red. I don't know if you guys are Stephen King fans, but I have had this movie for a long time. I've watched it quite a few times. This movie, if I'm watching it by myself, this movie most definitely creeps me out, and I will probably watch it by myself again this time. Well, I mean, I'll watch it with Abby. But Abby's a scaredy cat. She's a scaredy cat just like Winston used to be. Like, if I was watching movies with Winston and I watched a scary movie with him, he would just get up and leave. Like, during the scary parts, he was not going to stick around. He's like, Mom, you are crazy. I'm out of here. Not happening. You are fending for yourself. But, and Abby's pretty much the same way. So yeah, I will be watching Rose Red. I'm very excited about this. I love this movie. I love Stephen King. I really do. So I definitely had to fit in some Stephen King classics. And yeah, so that's everything. I am going to let you guys go before I hit that 33-minute mark where my videos get real wonky, and you guys are probably sick of hearing from me anyway. So I will talk to you in the next video. I have another one coming out very soon anyway. All right, I love you guys. I'll talk to you soon. Bye, guys.